Welcome to Fitbyfood, where we outsmart binge eating without restrictions. In this video I want to talk about how to change small things to eventually really see the results. You might know by now, if you've seen a few of my videos, that I promote a high-carb, low-fat, plant-based lifestyle. And that means a diet very abundant in fruits and vegetables. This allows you to binge still, but get the nutrients and get a fullness that is completely different from foods that just contain empty calories / energy. Redirecting your focus, shifting the focus from just empty calories that give you flavor for a few minutes and then guilt, to foods that actually give your body good health benefits is a game changer. If you can see the connection here, because what we really want to do when we want to eat something, and we know that we must be full because we've eaten a huge dinner, but we still feel a craving for snacking on something. What we want in that particular scenario is that we want to most likely disassociate from our body. Maybe we feel overwhelmed from our day, we feel so many emotions, we feel anxiety, we feel stress, and we don't have another coping mechanism. If we change the focus from the foods that are bad for our bodies to good for our bodies, and they don't make us gain weight in the same way, it is really a huge difference. If you realize this and you think, okay, it makes sense, but it seems like a big shift and I can't really identify or see myself do this, then I would invite you to start small. Switch up one thing. Maybe instead of, if your thing is to eat ice cream, then do nice cream. So frozen berries and bananas mixed together in a blender, and then it gets the same consistency of ice cream. Or instead of just having a bag of candy, you eat some dates or dried fruits. Or maybe instead of a bag of chips, you can do some oven roasted potatoes or air fried potatoes. Just switching up one thing. Maybe it's like once this week you change. Just start to experiment, and you will see that the body receives the same mechanism. It receives the same result as if you would to choose the thing with empty calories. Because it's really not the potato chips. Maybe you can resonate to this. You craved a bag of chips and you bought that bag of chips when you went grocery shopping, and then you thought, okay, I will just have it in my kitchen, I will eat it someday. And then you eat your dinner and you feel like, okay, I want to eat something else, what can I eat? And then you remember that bag of chips and you think, okay, no, I'm not gonna eat that, it's not healthy, I'm trying to lose weight. Then you continue watching TV, and then the thought comes back. You think, okay, I want the chips. And then you start to really think about it, you fixate on the chips. And then eventually you cave and think, okay, I have to have the chips. So you eat it. And then afterwards you feel empty. You feel like, why did I do that? I feel so bad, I feel gross, I feel like a loser, I feel so weak. And then you feel a feeling and realize it's not worth it. But before the chips, it was a feeling of, I have to have the chips. And you might have had this experience a few times, like a lot of times, but in the moment when you fixate on the chips, you don't remember this. And this is very interesting, right? Because afterwards we realize it wasn't about the chips, but we don't connect that when we feel the trigger of wanting to have the thing that we're focusing on. So realizing this, we realize it doesn't have to do with the chips or candy. It is just binging that we want. We want to feel more full. We want to feel so full that we dissociate from our bodies. And this is where it's a bit illogical with binge eating. It does not really make sense, but it does make sense also. Because we have feelings that we don't know how to regulate, so we're so uncomfortable that the small part of us thinks, I need a relief. And then you think, because you have had past experiences where you've focused on food and ate so much food that it got a distraction from feeling the nervous feelings inside your body. So it does give you something, and this is why it's still a coping mechanism, because it is a distraction. But after you caved and eaten the thing, you realize that the problems are still there and they might even be worse. So the logical part of this behavior is that you do get a momentarily distraction in form of dopamine. You do get that feel-good hormones from the things that we eat for a moment, but then afterwards we're in this cycle of the guilt and feeling bad and so on. What happens in this rising of emotions and we feel overwhelmed, that part of us that feels like it doesn't know how to regulate, it doesn't know what to do, just focuses on food. And this creates even a worse high of feelings of feeling bad, really, feeling anxiety. And we get to a point where we feel like it's almost like an anxiety attack. Not like we're hyperventilating, but we're feeling so many big feelings that we just need a release. And that's when food comes in. It does make us feel good for a while, but then it comes back. And this is why it's a coping mechanism that is not rational completely, because it is not working 100%. It's just a small relief. And the consequences are huge for binging on the wrong things. You get so many health risks with being overweight, and you also get that negative self-talk that is very destructive for the person's psyche. So binging in itself, we need to have awareness of why we do the things we do, and then start to wiggle it a bit and realize that we do have a choice. We can choose different things to focus on, and then we start to detach from the feeling of I'm just a person who binged and have a problem with food. I used to think that. When I was 18, over 10 years ago, I did think that I would never get a handle on this coping mechanism. And I didn't realize it was a coping mechanism. I just thought that this is my personality. I crave foods all the time. But that's not the reality. You're not your habits. I hope you realize this when I say it out like this. You're not your habits. We can change habits, we all know this. And this is another example. This is a habit that you formed, that you've done for maybe your whole life, but it can change. We just need to find a substitute for it. And the first step to do that is to get the awareness that there is another way. Subscribe if you want more information on this topic. And remember, it is possible to get fit by food.